Today is Friday, March 12th. Welcome to this edition of Nevada County Now. Today's episode, we're talking local control, hospital update, youth art, and more. Hello and welcome to Nevada County Now. I'm your host, Cole Pettit. We've seen an increase of 74 COVID-19 cases since last week, bringing our total to 4,086 confirmed cases. 70 cases are currently active with 6 hospitalizations, and the death toll remains at 74. According to the state's data, our adjusted case rate dropped to 10.1 from 11.3, and our test positivity rate decreased from 5.5% to 3.9%. We are now right on the edge of meeting the red tier metrics, especially with the state's changes to the tier system last week. Remember, these changes are based on vaccines administered to what the state has determined to be the communities most affected by COVID-19, and when 2 million doses of vaccine have been administered to this group statewide, the case rate to qualify for the red tier will be increased from 7 to 10. According to the state's data, approximately 1.97 million doses have been administered to this group already, so it seems likely we'll meet the 2 million mark in the next few days. Once we meet these red tier metrics, we'll need to maintain them for 2 more weeks before we're able to make the move. So, should current trends continue, look for that move to happen either the last week of March or the first week of April. Vaccine administration continues across Nevada County. Wednesday, Nevada County Public Health hosted another media Q&A where Health and Human Services Director Ryan Groover, Public Health Director Jill Blake, and Public Health Officer Dr. Scott Kellerman gave some updates and fielded questions. Let's take a brief look.
So I know it's a snowy day with outages and internet connectivity issues. So thank you guys all for making the time to be here. And I also know Jill has her video off because of that. And it is slightly affecting her audio. So we're going to pause if it gets unable to hear and she's replying and Scott or Ryan can fill in there.
Vaccine rollout is going very well despite some hiccups along the way. And although, we've gotten some feedback about how we'd like better communications with the state, which is what we'd like. I'd say in spite of everything, but, we're doing really, really well in this county. I think Ryan's going to give some numbers, but I think there's been over 27,000 doses of vaccine administered in this county.
Are the weekly announcements for My Turn appointments working well? If so, is a direct notification system for all those still needed or in progress, and any other updates you have about My Turn?
Yeah, I can say that, it's still a work in progress. We're really happy that the state came out with this system so that people can self-schedule appointments. It was a system that was designed for this purpose, and the state is being really responsive to feedback from the counties, and yet there are still glitches. I keep saying that in a few weeks or maybe 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to be a really terrific system. I know that they're testing the announcement component. We were hoping it was going to be active last Friday. It was not. I believe we did a test of that system. It seemed to work well. So we're asking people to hang in there and wait for that notification component. But until then, we are announcing when we're releasing those appointments so that people have a heads up. And that's still happening around noon on Fridays.
Are vaccine allocations increasing? And do you know if Janssen doses will become available in Nevada County?
I can speak to that and just say that, our allocation was getting sort of steady. And I think for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, we were seeing a slight increase each week. Last week, we don't have our numbers for this week yet. Last week was our largest allocation to date. I anticipate seeing a slight dip in that allocation this week for one reason, and that is that we've been told that California's allocations will remain pretty static for the next 2 to 3 weeks, but we won't be getting any more Johnson & Johnson vaccine until March 23rd. So this week's allocation likely will not have any Johnson & Johnson. So we might see a bit of a dip temporarily. And then once the state is getting Johnson & Johnson again, we anticipate getting our fair share of it. So it, I think, got pretty steady. We'll see a slight dip. At least that's what I'm anticipating for maybe a week or two. And then my guess is it will become a little more routine.
if you are unlikely to come back and, you were disadvantaged or something, you will get the Johnson & Johnson. I think we're just looking at each circumstance individually. And it's really difficult right now to sign up. I mean, you can't sign up to a clinic to say, I'm going to get Moderna, Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson. There's no way to do that, period. And the real problem with Moderna and Pfizer is if you got that immunization the first time, you have to come back and get the second immunization, similar immunization. You can't be using a different one.
All right, last submitted media question from Nevada County Media. What are your lessons learned from dealing with the pandemic that we can take moving forward?
I think we've seen levels of collaboration here that have been extraordinary. People talking together who, just kind of passing, kind of knew each other. And now we developed some, I would say we had a meeting of all the vaccinators this morning and afterwards, people said it was one of the best meetings I've ever had. How can you enjoy a meeting? But just the fact that camaraderie and the feeling of collegiality.
I would say that, we have been in this for a year now, and I think we've had a year-long crash course in learning so many lessons. To ask what have you learned, I don't even know where to start. But I will say that I think that asking that question is really important, and that's something I don't know if this is of interest to you so much, but something that we're working on as a team within public health is how do we capture those lessons learned? How do we capture those stories? How do we process everything that we've been through? And how do we as a community process everything that we've been through? I think those are really great questions. And I know this is a one-off in this meeting right now, but I'm really hoping that it's something that we all spend time on to really reflect.
As a reminder, new COVID-19 vaccination appointments for the Whispering Pines Clinic in Grass Valley become available for scheduling Fridays at 12 p.m. on myturn.ca.gov. Nevada County will continue to post new appointment availability for the Whispering Pines Clinic at 12 p.m. on Fridays for now. And remember to stay up to date with the latest on the COVID vaccine. You can sign up for text alerts by texting vaccine info to 898-211. You can call 211 to speak to a call specialist. Visit mynevadacounty.com/coronavirus/vaccine or sign up with MyTurn by visiting myturn.ca.gov. At Tuesday's Board of Supervisors meeting, the board voted on a resolution that was aimed at getting more local control from the state in implementing COVID-19 measures. After an extended period of public comment, the board eventually voted to table the resolution in a 3-2 vote. Let's take a quick look at their discussion.
Let's take a look at what we have before us. We have a resolution, and it's probably delivered incorrectly. It's basically a request to the governor to have more local input in coordination with our health department as far as how we reopen, how we do not reopen Nevada County as we go through this rest of this pandemic.
I just feel that we ought to look at this, and as a county, I think we should have some sort of say on how we move forward and how we close our businesses and how we move about. So anyway, and again, I didn't want to make this political. I thought this should be it should be a community discussion, not a political discussion.
This resolution does nothing. It does nothing. And I'm very afraid that what it does do is give to those people that were there today, those people who say they're going to do whatever they want anyways, regardless of what we do, and they've proven that. They've done it all the way along. This resolution says, yes, go do it. And I'm very, very concerned about that, even though I tend to agree with them, that they'll take it all the way. I don't disagree with the tier system. I think it's going to be a very long period of time before we really get away from the fact that we can finally do away totally with masks. We can do away with social distancing. We can have it fair. I want it fair as much as anybody does, but it's going to take some time to do that. I don't think this resolution will do that.
Chair Miller, I would make the motion that we table this resolution. I do not find consensus in the value of this resolution with the board today, and I'd like to focus on the direction from our local health officer, Dr. Kellerman, and for that reason, I'm going to move that we table this discussion.
There is currently no timetable for when this will return to the agenda. March is Youth Art Month. With all that's going on in our world today, art can be a great way to cope with the stresses and challenges we face. I talked with local artist and teacher Denise Way about her art and her experiences teaching in classrooms. Okay, so I'm joined today by Denise Way, a local artist instructor.
I've been teaching locally in schools and privately for all the arts like clay and painting, drawing, and children, adults alike. Probably since 2002, which seems like a long time ago now. I started teaching clay and then branched out. All the time that I was teaching clay and teaching children, I was also painting, but I never taught that for quite a while. And so I know lots of children who've now grown up and they're going to college or they're coming back to work. And sometimes they work with me as my assistants. It's really cool.
Can you tell us a little bit from your perspective, being able to be in the schools and see all the kids? How important is art to have for kids and to have in the schools? How valuable is that? Oh
gosh. I think it's more important than I know I'm an art teacher, but I believe that teaching that having art is almost more important than academics. I really do, because I think it encompasses all of that. It opens it up and encompasses all of that. Working creatively, if you give the people a chance, if you inspire them and set the stage, and you don't bark at them, and you give them a nice soft space, nice place for them to let ideas come out and try things and everything. It's just surprising what comes out of people, and they feel I call them people, even though they're small. It's so empowering when they learn, they master something and learn how to do it. They feel so good about themselves, and it helps them think in creativity. It helps them think in creatively in all ways. So I'm huge on creativity, and clay is really good because it helps you think in 3 dimensions. And so it's very good for the visual arts, clay is, and it's good therapy. Art is good therapy too. It keeps you in the present moments of a great therapy this year for adults and for kids, if they can actually focus and do it. Some of them are still having trouble, even though they love art, to focus and do it because it's been such a hard year. That's what I'm finding with kids that love art. But that's more the teenagers. They're having, I think, a harder time. But the younger ones, they look forward to their art time. And I think it's like it keeps you in the present moment. If you are really working hard on something and doing it creatively, whatever it is, whether it's music, dance, anything like that, but it keeps you in the present moment and it keeps your mind from thinking about things. So I think it's a good tool.
Thanks, Denise. Much of the recent news about our hospital, Sierra Nevada Memorial, has been primarily focused around COVID-19, yet they continue to improve and expand their offerings in other areas as well. For more, we'll turn it over to Kimberly Parker, Executive Director of the Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital Foundation.
Hi everyone and welcome. So glad to be with you again. Today I thought I would share just a few little updates from Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. First of all, I'm really excited to announce that our cardiac rehab program has started back up. For those of you that may not know really what cardiac rehab is, if you are someone who's got serious heart issues or if you've had a heart attack or heart surgery, often your cardiologist in the hospital will ask you to come back to a cardiac rehab program. A lot of people don't realize that most hospitals don't do cardiac rehab programs, but it's been a very important program for our hospital. And in phase 1, if you come into a cardiac rehab program, what happens is you're given information and education. You're also given, nutritional tips. But most importantly, you're taught to use all the equipment within the cardiac rehab department under the supervision of an RN and an exercise physiologist and others. In addition to that, in phase 1, you're monitored, and so they can kind of regulate and make sure that everything you're doing is good for you. How long you stay in phase 1 depends on the individual, and eventually you go into phase 2. Phase 2 is pretty similar, except you're not monitored, but you still are there with an RN and an exercise physiologist. And then phase 3 is when they feel that you can do your own individual cardiac rehab program, whether you do that at home or a gym, and they help you get prepared to be able to do that. So we're very excited that this program started again, and if you think you might be a candidate for it, you can speak to your healthcare provider and to your cardiologist and see if this is an option for you. Another thing that has started up is the pulmonary function testing, which is testing that checks your lungs and makes sure that the air and oxygen in and out of your lungs is appropriate. For many that have come out of COVID-19, we are finding that they have long-term respiratory issues, and so the pulmonary function testing is very, very important. And then a third thing happening again at the hospital is that we encourage women to come and get their mammograms, but Saturdays have opened up in March for additional screenings. So if you're one of those working people that can't get your mammogram done during the week, but really do know that you need to have it done, you can call the hospital at 274-6000 and ask for the Diagnostic Imaging Center and get your mammogram scheduled for a Saturday coming up soon. Last but not least, if you haven't seen it, I really wanted to show you this Healthy You magazine that the unions put out. It's got incredible information on all sorts of health and nutrition and exercise and all that's really great. Inside, there is a wonderful article about our hospital that tells you a little bit more about the services that might be available to you. There's also an article about our hospital foundation in here and the work we do. This came out in the union newspaper, but if you didn't get it, then another option that you might try is you can look around town, because I believe they do have copies in various areas, or you can call the union newspaper, and I'm sure they have extra copies there as well. It's been really great talking to you. I hope you have a nice week, and we'll talk to you about your health again next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Kimberly. The United Way of Nevada County, in partnership with Interfaith Food Ministry, is once again holding Food Access Saturday, tomorrow, March 13th. If you or someone you know is in need of nutritious food, you are encouraged to come by. They're eager to help those who might be worrying about where their next meal might come from. It's a drive-through event located at 440 Henderson Street in Grass Valley from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. This event is open to all. Food Access Saturday is held on the second Saturday of every month. An additional food pantry service takes place every Wednesday at Nevada Union High School from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. For more information or to volunteer to help during Food Access Saturday, please email admin@uwnc.org. As I mentioned earlier, March is Youth Art Month. Back in November, we ran an art competition with the theme, What Are You Thankful For? Winners were selected for each grade level, and they are Willow Howard, Dorian Simpson, Gunnar Julian, Clover Rashby, Emery Rubalis, and Alyssa Rubalis from 2nd through 7th grades, respectively. Denise Way talked with a few of the winners about their art and what art means to them. We'll leave you tonight with some clips from their conversation. Remember, stay safe, take care of each other. We'll see you next week.
So Clover, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I saw a beautiful drawing of yours, very colorful. And it made me wonder what inspired you to do that drawing.
The one in the middle was me, and the two on the sides were my best friends, Brooklyn and Isa. And it said girl pod across the top because we call ourselves the girl pod since we've been best friends for years.
Hey, Gunnar. My name is Denise.
Hi, Denise.
I'd like to ask you some questions. And I saw a beautiful, colorful drawing that you did.
Yeah.
And it appeared to be a turkey.
Well,
it was the middle of Thanksgiving, and I drew it for things I'm thankful for, like Thanksgiving, and I drew it with baseball gear on, so I'm thankful for baseball.
I'm so lucky. I get to interview you about your wonderful drawing.
Yeah, and my name is Dorian. I'm just glad that I won.
Oh, you won. Yeah. Well, that was a really powerful drawing that you did. It was a powerful drawing. That's the drawing. Thank you for showing me. Not only is it a powerful and good drawing, but it has a message. So I'm curious to know more about it. Like, what inspired you to do it?
Wait, it was just something random.
Really?
I drew, but we just added some things to it, really.